You're back! You are curious for understanding, aren't you? In the last tutorial, you learned how to create a slider, which is so important in helping to make your functions dynamic. Hopefully you've taken the time to fully understand how to create a slider and how it actually works. In this tutorial, we'll see how to plot a new function which actually uses all of the sliders that you need to create to control the parameters of each function. We'll also look at how to create a text box which easily allows you to show each of the three different ways that you can write a linear function. We'll also learn how to create multiple pages in your document. So hopefully you're continuing to use the help menu in many different ways to help answer your questions and also to deepen your understanding of how Geometry Sketchpad works. So good luck, and let's do some more math. In our last tutorial, you saw how to create a slider, and we'll pick up from there. You can see that I have the slider, which is labeled B, and remember, a slider is nothing more than a ratio. It's the ratio of two lengths. So as I drag point B to the right, I can increase the value of the slider. If I drag point B to the left, I can decrease it, and I can make it negative by dragging B to the left of the point that we started with. So let's get started with plotting a new function which actually uses this slider as a parameter. First thing I'm going to decide to do even before I plot the function is I'm going to use this slider as the parameter for the slope. And the label of it right now is a bit misleading, so I want to change it. I'm going to change the uppercase B to a lowercase m because it's going to represent the slope. To do that, I double click on the label and I get this dialog box. I'm simply going to type in lowercase m, and then I've changed the label of the slider to lowercase m, which is more descriptive for what I'm using it for. We go to Graph. We're going to plot a new function. We get this dialog box that you're familiar with, and instead of the function q of x equal to some number times x plus the y-intercept, we're going to hover over the value of the slider and we're going to click, which will select that and place it into my equation. So at the moment, this is just going to be a constant equation. Q of x is equal to the value of the slider. I'm going to multiply that by x, and then let's add a constant for the y-intercept. We'll add 3, and there's the equation. Q of x is equal to the slider m, or the ratio am over ac, times x plus 3. And here's the graph of that equation. I'm going to make this a bit thicker by selecting the line, go up to Display, Line Style, and let's make that medium. So if I move the slider, you'll notice that the ratio is changing, and that of course represents the slope, which is then changing the function. And as I increase the slope, I have a steeper line. As I decrease it, it is less steep, and I can make that a decreasing function by making the slope negative. However, the equation doesn't look too friendly, although it is in slope-intercept form. So the next thing we want to learn is how can we use a text box to write this function in a much more friendly way. I'm going to select the text tool. I'm going to go to some empty space and drag open a text box. And instead of choosing the name q of x for my function, let's use f of x. So I'm typing in f of x is equal to, and I don't want to have the fraction am over ac. I want to have this actual value. So again, I hover over it. You can see the cursor changing to a plus. I click on that, and that simply replaces into the function the value of the slider. I then want to type in the independent variable x, and then we'll finish the equation plus 3. Click on my selection tool, and there's the equation in a much more friendly form. Again, let's observe what happens if I change the slider. Now we can see the coefficient of x changing along with the graph of that function, and that's a much more friendly looking equation. But what about these other things? Well, I don't want to have this visible and I don't want to have this ratio visible. So from the last video, we remembered how to hide things. I select it and I can select multiple things to hide. Double check to make sure nothing else is selected. Otherwise, when I hide, I'll hide those objects as well. So I go up to display. I go down to hide text objects. And now I have just the equation in the form that I wanted in. I can drag that up and move it to a different location. Remember, if I want to change some colors and font sizes, as long as your text palette is open, you can do that. If your text palette is not open, then you can always display it by going to Display and Show Text Palette. Let's suppose this dark blue I'm choosing to change colors, so I select it, go up to the color palette, let's make it a nice orange, and there's the function. The last topic that we want to talk about is how do you create multiple pages in your document. You're going to have to create 3 different pages for the 3 different ways we can represent a linear function. So currently, if you look down at the bottom, I don't have any tabs because this is just the first page of the sketch. To create multiple pages, what I do is I go to File and then Document Options. And that'll bring up this dialog box, which allows you to add and to also name pages appropriately. So currently there's just one page, and let's name this page First Equation, and I'll click OK. And you'll notice I don't have any tabs yet. I won't get that until I create a second and third page. So I do have a page named First Equation, but I have to go back to the File menu, go down to Document Options, and let's add a page. You have some choices. We can add a blank page or a duplicate. Let's add a blank page. And now we have a second page. Looking down at the bottom, there are 2 tabs. And let's name this page Second Equation. And when I click OK, there are the 2 tabs at the bottom. And I could create the next sketch on this page. To toggle back to the first page, I just click on the tab. There's page 1. Click on the second equation page, and there's page 2. And you would do that multiple times to get your 3 pages. That's how you create a function using the sliders that you have created, and also how to create multiple pages in your single document. Don't forget to use that help menu. It answers lots of questions that you may have. Good luck with the project. I hope it's a lot of fun. Let's do some more learning.